behind Texas because, yeah, Texas has an extra loss. Yeah, they beat them. But Vanderbilt over the last few months has been the better football team. But as I mentioned, Texas did beat Vanderbilt, but record should come before head-to-head.
Absolutely. It felt unthinkable at the beginning, but now it seems, I see the logic behind it. I see the logic behind why Clark Lee was saying, hey, look, guys, we want to explore this option. We want to see if we can go out there and play a 13th game and get that data point for the committee to have to determine. It really does stink because I'm right there with you, because if I'm on the committee from a subjective standpoint, I have eyes.
Yes.
I watched Vandy the entire season. I watched even in one of the games they lost against Alabama, them fumble the ball, 2 or 3 times there in the red zone, and possibly could have won that football game. I saw them storm back against Texas and give themselves at least a crack. I know that they got down big in that game.
An onside kick away from, and honestly, it was pretty close to being recovered as well.
Yes, and we've seen crazy fourth quarter comebacks. Just look at the Denver Broncos. So it wasn't insane in either one of those games for them to be able to come out with that win. I do think this is a really interesting scenario, though, because the College Football Playoff Committee has to weigh a few things. What are you going to do with Texas? I think a lot of people, most think they're out. I think with Vanderbilt, obviously it's going to be what happens above them.
Yep.
Then what happens in the BYU Texas Tech game. If BYU happens to win that one, what do you do there? And then the dominoes ultimately fall to what I think everybody's looking forward to is what happens between Notre Dame and Miami. Once again, these two programs locked in controversy once again, this time not by their own doing, by the College Football Playoff doing. But to me, for Vandy to be right there in the middle of that mix, I like it for the drama. I hate it for the team that I think is one of the top 12 teams.
Yeah, and honestly, I just don't see a scenario where they do get in now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, yeah, you can talk about BYU if they get blown out. Obviously, they don't deserve to be in. So that moves Vanderbilt up 1. And then you have to hope that Alabama gets blown out. That moves you up another spot. Now you're at 12, but the cut is 10. And you still have Miami and Texas in front of you. So Miami and Texas would probably both get in. You would have to hope for some chaos, but I mean, even if Indiana or Ohio State lost 6-0, they're still going to be in the field,
right? Because
I mean, we've been talking about all year, like, hey, I mean, this has been a collision course in the 100%. Big Ten since the beginning of the season. Ohio State and Indiana, both 12-0. I wouldn't be surprised if they rest some people. I mean, that's been that's been the talk.
And to your point, I'm going to make 2 points here. One that's going to support your point about the access-based model, and 2 about these conference championship games. I don't know if there's any other evidence that anybody else needs why these conference championship games might need to go away and be able to have, like Vandy is proposing, a 13th game. This is the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country. Never should the top 2 teams in the country be on the field at the same time in December and nobody cares. I haven't heard a single peep about this game. Want to know why? Because everybody knows that this possibly is just a seeding situation for the playoff. And like you said, if I'm Ohio State and even Jeremiah Smith has a hangnail, he's sitting out of this football game.
I mean, I guarantee you him and Carnell Tate both played hurt against Michigan.
Yes.
Just because they needed to play.
They had to have that win. Right.
I seriously don't remember a time where the conference championship has meant less.
Yes.
Like, actually.
Right.
And I've never – this is how corrupt the system is right now. Alabama is playing for the SEC championship, and could get punished while nothing against Ole Miss or anything.
Right,
they're comfortably in because they're not playing this week.
Right.
Why in the world do we have a system where you can get penalized for playing in a conference championship? It just does not make any sense. That's why I'm a huge proponent of the access-based model. You have your 2 conference finalists. They both get in. And then depending on the conference, depending on how big the playoff gets, just have the 3rd and the 4th best team play for a spot. And then maybe the 5th and the 6th best team if we want to go to 4 spots for the SEC and the Big Ten.
Right, yeah. And I agree with you. And I think that one of the kind of the through lines about all this, and you're seeing the ridiculousness of the conference championship games, and you're seeing them in real time, because in no uncertain terms, Texas A&M fans are probably cheering that they lost to Texas.
Yeah,
because they don't. I mean, they're guaranteed a spot, they're guaranteed to host, and they don't have to play Saturday in Atlanta. Meanwhile, Alabama, as you said, a lot of them are crossing their fingers. Hey, what if Georgia plays the game of their life like we did in Athens, like Alabama did in Athens? And let's say Georgia plays the game of their life. Bama loses by 2 touchdowns. Now you're sitting there on Sunday right before the NFL games kick off and the College Football Playoff Committee's bracket comes out. And you're crossing your fingers hoping that you're not left out of this thing. Now, we have heard from the committee, and they basically said it with their actions, that they're not going to punish a team that makes it to the conference championship game, but you have no idea. And the ultimate I guess, evidence that the conference championship games are meaningless is just take a look at the ACC, where you have a 5-loss team that won a 5-way tiebreaker, and Duke be able to get in. And if they win on Saturday,
and Manny Diaz, politicking for, hey, if we win, we should be in. We're the ACC. I'm like, come on.
And games at this time of year should be important.
Yes.
And it just feels like games this week in particular are not going to be important.
No,
and that's not good for the product.
No, I mean the Big Ten championship. Ooh, we get a trophy, but the main thing is they're going to be playing not to get hurt.
Right.
Because both of those teams are going to have a first round bye. I still think if one of those teams loses 66-0, they're still both going to be top 4 teams. I mean, maybe the Big 12. There is something at stake there, but I mean, Texas Tech could lose that game and they still be in.
Yeah.
It's only meaningful for one side, and that's BYU.
That's right.
It's meaningful for one side in the ACC championship.
Right.
And the SEC championship, I mean, as long as Alabama doesn't lose by more than 15, it's meaningless.
Right.
They're both in. They just want to not get hurt.
Exactly. And I think that it shouldn't be that situation. It really shouldn't be where Bama has to pray to not lose by a certain amount when they're having to play that extra game anyways. And so that is really interesting to me. Well, we got a chance to hear from Clark Lee making, I guess, his case about their resume going into the final week of the season.
Again, what you notice is part of the reasons those teams have fallen off is because I don't think that we were respected at the level we should have been respected, like the quality of team that we are. And so, when you look at LSU, Missouri, and Tennessee, they finished 23-0 against unranked teams. They were 0-13 against the top 14. And speaking specifically about LSU, they have 5 losses. Those losses are Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Ole Miss. I mean, Missouri has 4 losses: Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Alabama. Tennessee has 4 losses: Vanderbilt, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Alabama. I mean, this is about a league that is the playoffs. When you play in the SEC every week, you are in the playoffs. And so I know there's a lot of talk about, the SEC and the bias towards the strength of our league, but look at the teams, look at the performances, understand exactly what the gauntlet is that we go through to get to this point. We have a 10-2 SEC football team. And at the end of the day, in my mind, that should be enough. And I think some of those teams were discounted because they lost to Vanderbilt. Well, Vanderbilt's got a damn good football team.
And I think if you just look at the metrics overall, because the college football is not like the NFL where all teams are equal. So then every now and again you'll have a weird situation where, you have a division winner that might have a 500 record or even a losing record hosting a playoff game. College football is so different, and he is trying to make the lines of distinction with what the SEC is in the gauntlet in and of itself, just to be able to get in. And to me, that's where I think that you have to assure the committee that they realize that going in. And Texas is trying to do the same thing by saying, hey, look at our schedule.
Right.
We could have scheduled, no offense to Youngstown State or no offense to South Dakota or whoever, they could have scheduled anybody instead of Ohio State.
And be like, hey, we're 10-2.
We're 10-2. We should be in.
But here's the thing, though. We look at the March Madness Selection Committee, and what do they value? They value the quad 1 wins. They value the net. They value the Ken Pom. What does the selection committee truly value?
Right.
Because, there's just no – it feels like the reasoning changes every week. I know there's talk of strength of schedule. Well, Vanderbilt's got 22nd best strength of schedule, and I think they have the 11th best strength of record.
Right.
And it's just like, what are we doing? But going back to the whole Vanderbilt trying to schedule a 13th game, I wish this would have happened because I think we could have seen Miami Vanderbilt play.
Yeah.
and the winner go in. And
Right.
this is basically the college football playing
game. Yeah. And that's what college football needs. And I think that, and you mentioned it with the committee, and I have to give credit here because our friend of the show, Jim Dunaway, who does the next round, one of the things he said was that the committee's first poll came out when Miami lost their second game. So they came out number 18, and so they've had to fight and claw their way back. And I think that the narrative on Miami was they're going to stink because they just suffered their second loss.
Right.
Now they've run the table, and I wonder if Vandy, they just misseeded Vandy early on, and now there's not really a pathway for them to be able to get in. And like you said, now this does set the table where if you did have a 13th game, you put those two teams on the field.
And that's what Clark Lee is trying to say. I know we played the sound yesterday where he's like, we need to get rid of these preseason biases because these teams are ranked. I mean,
Right.
Miami was in the top 10 and Texas was obviously number 1. So, like, both of these teams were ranked over Vanderbilt to start the year.
Right.
And they're still ranked above Vanderbilt here after the regular season. And, I mean, who knows what would have happened. I think it was logistically it just wasn't going to work out.
Right.
And like, traveling
Yeah.
to get this game to happen. But, I mean, this could set the precedent for, hey, look, I think the playoff needs to expand. Because, I mean, we're at the point now where it's like there's just too much traffic at the end for teams that should be in. And good teams that can definitely – I think any of these teams that are on the bubble, just barely out, can put a scare to any of the top 4 teams.
No question.
Maybe even the top. I mean, I'd say anybody actually.
Right, and that would only continue with the transfer portal and with guys being able to leave quickly. The reason being is because now these teams are a lot more evenly matched, and we're seeing this across the board. We see this with G5 teams beat Power 4 teams all the time. So I think it'll be even tighter, which would make it more traffic, which in my opinion would make it to where you would need more teams that are in. We'll dive into this topic and several others with our great guests today on the program, and we cannot wait to talk to Chess and Michelle because it's our first time being able to talk to her since everything went down. We have asked her opinion a million times about Lane, about other coaches down there. She didn't think it would happen. It now has happened. I wonder what her thoughts are. Also, Kevin Ryans joins us out of St. Louis. We'll talk Missouri, talk about not only the Tigers, but also the Blues as well. And on today's show, we will talk a little bit more about Vanderbilt trying to add that 13th game and the next data point. Lane Train arriving in Baton Rouge. Arkansas basketball, Coach Cal and company.
I had a terrible take. We're definitely going to play that.
Hey, you know what? I love the
the
humble segment that we'll have. And we got Missouri and KU coming up on Sunday. We'll preview that matchup as well. Southeast Sports continues after the break. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, hour number 1 on a Thursday. I have to admit, I love all of our guests here, but there's a few that I'm super excited to talk to after specific things. And the one person I said that we have to talk to as soon as this news came down on my phone was like, I got to hear what Chessa Boucher's got to say about this Lane Kiffin drama. We have been pestering you for weeks, and we apologize on the front end before we ask you all these 8 million questions. But we were talking during the break, and you have ties to both Ole Miss and LSU. Of course, some of your college days, your college days as an undergrad were spent there in Oxford, but also you bleed purple and gold from the time you were young to the team that you cover now as a professional. How did all of this land now that Lane Kiffin is officially a Bengal Tiger?
Man, my phone has not had this much love on it in years. And maybe not all the, positive love, because you have love, you love, and then you hate, and it's a mixture. And so it's kind of been from both sides. I will tell you, a few years ago when the whole Mike Bianco fiasco, could he come to LSU, all of that went on. And then, of course, Ole Miss ended up winning the national championship the next year. And so then my timeline was divided from all the Tiger fans and then all the Ole Miss fans and the people that know that I got my undergrad from Ole Miss and I got my master's from LSU. So they were like, who do you root for? And I just put a picture of the Intimidator that has all the national championships and was like, I know y'all got one, but when y'all can come and match that, then we can have this conversation. So that kind of put it to bed. I feel kind of the same way with football. Football has been more competitive because of what Lane Kiffin did there in Oxford, and I respect that and I get that. I told Brian Holland, my sports director, as soon as they hired Lane, I was like, they're going to be something to watch for because he has been successful wherever he goes. I was excited about it because I like when Ole Miss is competitive. Now, I don't want Ole Miss to win a national championship ever, much less beat LSU. So when Lane came and he started beating LSU, I was like, I'm not a big fan of this, but I love Lane Kiffin. So it's been a mixed bag, needless to say, and my phone has been ringing off the hook. Everybody wants to know how do I feel, what do I think, and I think LSU knocked it out of the park, that they went and got their guy that was the #1 target, and they were going to say, hey, we'll do whatever and make it worth your while, and you're not going to be able to say no. And I think that's kind of a product of what we've seen, and I think Lane Kiffin again hit another home run with the introductory press conference. I like that he was a bit emotional, he was honest, and he was genuine. That's what I truly felt when he was talking about it. When he first got up there, he was nervous and he was kind of stuttering. You could tell he was uncomfortable, but I think he finally felt comfortable and safe to be who he is. And Lane Kiffin is one of those people, which very much like Kim Mulkey, either you like him or you don't. And people are the same way with me. Either you like me or you don't. And that's okay. I still sleep at night with a fan on and it doesn't bother me, and I'm not going to let it bother me because I was not born that way. I could not live that way of trying to please people. So I am who I am. It takes a lot. Either you love me or you don't. And the same with Lane. And I think he's the man for the job. I think if you look at all the coaches, despite the pedigree, just him as a person, he can take a lot of heat, and he doesn't mind taking a lot of heat, and that's a good thing, especially in Baton Rouge, because if you're not winning, you are going to feel that fire, that flame from the fan base. And I think he has that tough skin that you need here in Baton Rouge that we saw from Brian Kelly. He didn't have enough of that thick skin, calling everybody spoiled. So I think they got the right guy. I'm excited to see what he brings. I'm excited to see the roster that he puts together.
Chessa, when Lane did that interview on the tarmac with ESPN's Marty Smith, and Marty asked him, like, why did you make this decision? And he didn't really give, like, a good answer, so to speak, something that you might have been looking for. Now, this is pure speculation, but why do you think he chose to head to Baton Rouge rather than stay in a place that he openly admitted to saying, hey, I found myself here in Oxford?
I think it's easy to look back and say, hey, 3 out of the 4 previous head coaches all won national championships. And I think he knows, I mean, he's been in Tiger Stadium. It is a different animal. It's a different feel. This fan base is next level and they have high expectations. You go to Oxford and you have, a 10-win season. That's phenomenal because they had never had that before. But that's the bar. And when you are competitive and when you want to be the best coach and of all of college football, and you say, hey, if I go and do that at this program, I can do it there because it's been done. You know, Lane Kiffin is full of himself. He knows that he's a better head coach than Ed Ogeron. He knows he's a better head coach than Les Miles. He knows that, and he's willing to say, hey, I'm going to go do what they did, and I'm going to do it better. So for me, I think that was his reasoning. I think he looked at the roster, he saw at Ole Miss, and he was like, hey, yeah, they're in the college football playoffs. This team's not built to win a national championship. We can all be honest and say that openly. Now, if they go and win it, I will say, hey, I put my foot in my mouth. I was wrong. But until they do that, I mean, they haven't had an SEC title championship yet. What are we waiting on? You know?
Right.
And so Lane Kiffin wanted to go to the program that he has the best opportunity to show, hey, I am a good coach. I'm going to put my name in the cement and say, hey, I am one of the best in the country, and I'm going to do it here in Baton Rouge.
Absolutely. One of your insights that I truly loved is, and I heard it from a few places, but I think you articulated it the best. It was that Lane Kiffin really, he loves the attention. And you kind of compared it to like that pretty girl in high school or in college. It's just like whatever it is, like people talking about him, he loves it. But there's also a side of him that is about pure business and about pure football. And you saw it there at Ole Miss. Do you think that he'll still be able to blend both of those worlds? The troll that we all kind of like and love, and the attention seeker that he likes and love about himself, and keeping up with the Juice Kiffin stuff, and with the actual expectations that are on the field, because the expectations, as you mentioned, aren't the same in Oxford as it is at Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be challenging for him because, again, you go to Oxford and the bar is really low, and you can kind of fly under the radar and you can put together a good roster. But if you don't reach those expectations, it's like, hey, you're okay. You're still doing something that other coaches haven't been able to do. That's not going to fly in Baton Rouge. So I think there's going to be a bit of a learning curve. I think he might, I don't want to say pull the reins in a bit, but he might not be the big time troll and stay trolling to that level until he actually earns it, if you know what I mean. Like if he's successful, then I think he's going to be nonstop. But I think in the process, I think there's going to be a little bit of a, hey, let me go do before I say a lot, and I haven't done a lot. So I think we've seen him grow. He's matured. I still think he's going to be a troll. I just think it might be reined in a bit because of where you are. And I mean, LSU is already one of the top brands in college football. You get a lot of criticism, attention, all of the above, and you got to back it up or you're not going to be in Baton Rouge for very long.
I tell you what, if there's a timeline for him starting this trolling, I see the game in Oxford next year as the perfect start to the trolling if they don't get on the trolling here first. But I got to ask, he's a big hot yoga guy. Has he found, are there good studios there in Baton Rouge?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes?
Yoga Lottie's is like top tier. And that's the first one he went to. And I was like, bro, you already set the bar so high.
Oh, boy.
You need to stay
It's like going to the best
there.
restaurant the first time.
Bruh, I got so embarrassed there by the 70-year-old woman outdoing me. And I'm competitive. I'm a former athlete. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this too and try to do some like flying. Your leg is up in the air. And I almost face planted. And I was like, man, maybe I'm not built for this yoga. So I think he started with the best one, and I'm pretty sure he'll be going back to that one because none other compare in Baton Rouge to Yoga Lottie's. That's the place to be.
Should I try it? Like, should I try it? Yes?
Wow.
Yes. It is so hard.
Okay.
Ooh, well, it does.
Well, maybe
It sounds
I gotta find a class. It
just looks difficult.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I'll stick to some weights. It just looks hard. It looks hard to do. How quickly do you think that Lane Kiffin, because he's like the, I guess, self-proclaimed portal king, and he killed it in Oxford. Of course, everybody wants to go to LSU. Is going to be an easy place to recruit to. How quickly do you expect to see Lane Kiffin and his team at their best moving forward? I know that they're a bit of a late start. All these coaches have a bit of a late start as it relates to this year's signing class, but he's proven before he can kind of microwave a team. How fast do you expect to see it be successful there in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, I think with him getting in on Sunday and then only having that small window of Sunday night and then the 2 days that you can't really talk or do a whole lot. So I think he's kind of behind the 8 ball in this class, but I think especially with the signing period, in February where it's the whole shebang. So I think we'll see a bit of a difference. We've already seen some guys flip, some this new coaching staff get rid of some of the guys who had been committed because maybe they don't fit the mold of what Lane Kiffin is looking for. So I will say that I expect a lot more movement, especially with the portal and the signing period in February. But I think next year will be the year. He'll have a full year under his belt. He'll have his coaching staff the way he wants it. And I think you'll see the recruits really flood in. I will tell you, at the introductory press conference, I went up to Jay Johnson, who he is called the portal king here in Baton Rouge. I went up to Jay and I was like, Jay, who do you think is going to be the better portal king here in Baton Rouge? And he started laughing and he pointed to Tiger Stadium. He's like, that's hard to beat. And I was like, yeah, but the Intimidator. And he just cheesed so hard. And he was like, we'll see. And I was like, ooh. So it might have lit a fire under Jay Johnson, which I don't think anybody in the country wants to hear that, because Jay Johnson, I swear, that man does not sleep. He is next level when it comes to recruiting. But I think Kiffin's going to give him a run for his money. Like you said, it's the brand. It kind of recruits itself. And then especially, there's a guy from East Ascension High School, Bryson Martinez. He's an offensive lineman. They used him so many different ways this year, and he signed pen to paper to LSU yesterday, and he was cheesing because we've seen Lane Kiffin do defensive tackle scoring touchdowns. You don't think this man who's 6'7", who's a beast, and he's supposed to be on the O-line, I can see him catching touchdowns. That's what he did this year, played every position. I feel like Lane Kiffin's going to have some magic with Bryson, because that is one of the most athletic 6'7" dudes I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, how does he move like that for a 6'7" dude? So I'm interested to see what Lane does with him, because again, it's another weapon offensively, and Lane knows what to do with those.
While we're on the topic of recruiting, obviously this is the early signing period, and Lane has flipped a few from Ole Miss, and then on the other side, some have flipped from LSU to Ole Miss. I want to touch on Lamar Brown real quick, because he was the first recruit that Lane talked to when he got off the plane in Baton Rouge. He decided not to sign in this early signing period. I know he said he wants to see the offensive staff here before he finally makes his decision. Are you a little worried about him potentially flipping?
I kind of go back and forth on that. So Lamar Brown is one of the best defensive linemen in the country. He played offensive line for U High this year. They're getting ready for their semifinal playoff game tomorrow night. I think because the defensive staff is still in fluctuation, because he will play on the defensive line at the next level, that he's trying to wait and see who's going to be his defensive line coach. So I think that kind of matters, which I respect. If I was him, I would do the same thing. Yeah, you're still verbally committed. Yeah, you've been a huge recruiter itself at LSU of saying, hey, come play with us, come play at LSU. U High is literally in the backyard of LSU's campus. So I feel like he's probably still leaning heavily towards LSU, and he will sign. I know that they talked about he could potentially sign tomorrow, but more than likely he'll sign in February. So it's kind of up in the air, but I agree. I think he's making the better choice of waiting and trying to say, hey, who is going to be my position coach? That's who I want to know who I'm going to be playing for next year. So I think it's a smart move. I don't like it in the recruiting cycle just because we all know anything can happen.
Yeah.
But I get
just
it
sign
and I understand
already.
it. Yes, I'm like, sign it right now. You can be there in January. Let's go. But I get it. I think it's a smart move for him and his family.
Absolutely. One final football thing before we move to basketball, and you could probably answer this in a yes or no question. We've seen the exits for Lane Kiffin. You might have the 5 ugliest ones of all time. We've seen all the Oakland Raiders, Tennessee, USC, even Nick Saban kicked them out of Tuscaloosa before the national championship game. Are there any LSU fans, and you can speak generally or specifically, that are maybe 1 foot in, 1 foot out, side-eyeing Lane Kiffin, like just to make sure, that you don't see the grass might be greener with the Green Bay Packers or, with another program somewhere else? Or are they fully like, hey, this is our guy and we think that he really will stay a Tiger for life?
I think it's hard, especially in the landscape of college football nowadays, for anybody to say, hey, they're going to stay here in one spot, because we just haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I think with the history of the program, with what LSU is willing to do to keep him and say, hey, this is your team, this is your program now, we support you in whatever way we can. I think that shows a little bit more of a willingness and a responsibility might not be the right word, but hey, I'm committed and I'm going to do that. Let's be honest, it wouldn't be ugly, messy. um, I don't want to say breakups, but like leaving a program. You're not upsetting a fan base if you're not winning. But when you're successful and you're winning, then of course they don't want you to leave. They want to live the great glory days and have these historic seasons and do all the things. I think the way that Ole Miss handled the situation might not have been the best way. I feel like Keith or AD was kind of saying, hey, you're not going to coach in the college football playoffs. Don't you just want to stay here and be in Oxford forever? But like I can tell you, I was in Oxford for 5 years. It gets old after a while because there's not a whole lot to pick from. So when you go from a small town like Oxford and then you go to Baton Rouge and then you have New Orleans just an hour and 15 minutes down the road, I think it's a better landing spot and it has more to offer, especially again with the fan base of how they support you and how they're going to show up and how they're going to do things a lot differently. I mean, Tiger Stadium for Clemson is going to be bonkers. The last time that stadium has been that lit was when LSU beat Saban with Brian Kelly in year 1 in overtime. Like, I cannot even tell y'all how nuts that place. They're going to be tailgating Friday night going into Saturday morning. Like, it's going to be absolutely bonkers. But again, you're talking about Oxford, Mississippi. They had to freaking put in fake crowd noise and do all this stuff to make it such a intimidating environment. That is not the case in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it's not going to be the case, especially with somebody like Lane Kiffin leading this program.
Yeah, he's not going to have to worry about the student section not showing up for any of those games. But we'll see what the LSU football team looks like next year. We don't need to speculate on the women's team because, I mean, I got to say, I should have listened to you in the beginning because you said this might be one of Kim Mulkey's best teams yet. And they continue the 100-plus points. I think it's in 8 games right now. I feel like they're kind of getting disrespected. I think they're 9th in the AP poll right now.
I think they're 5th. In the AP poll.
That still might be a little disrespectful, I think.
Yeah, but I think that comes with they always want to hate on Kim Mulkey's easy non-conference scheduling, which I get it. I understand it. You don't get excited when they're playing against a Tulane or they're playing against smaller schools where you're like, man, let's really see what this team looks like against great competition. I told y'all this is by far the deepest team I've ever seen, and I think it's impressive. 7 players on this team are averaging double digits. That's hard to do when you have that many players that can score, and 7 of them are averaging that. So to me, I just think it shows their unselfishness, the way that they're playing together, while they really just, the chemistry is there, and that's so rare. Especially you go back, and I think I've said this before on y'all's show, only 2 starters from last year's team, and you have 7 girls averaging double figures. They're playing well together. It's just, I think this team is really special. I think you have some of the best talent on that roster, from freshmen to, again, Flau'jae Johnson to Michaela Williams. We call her the smooth operator. And then we're not even talking about Malaysia Fulwiley. That woman is one of the most electric players I have ever seen in my almost 40 years of life. That is incredible. I don't want to miss a game because I don't want to miss an amazing play by her. I'm just glued. I'm like, what is she going to do next? That's exciting. And that's what Kim Mulkey thrives on, especially when she trusts you and she's like, hey, this is y'all's team. I think it's a product of them having great chemistry, super talented, and their unselfishness is really showing its head. And I love it. It gets me excited to see when a team plays so well together, especially so early on. But they're going to play against Duke on the road in the indoor tonight. I'm interested to see how that one unfolds, especially with there's been a little bit of trash talk on social media. So it's like, what what is this going to look like?
Yeah, you teed that one up actually perfectly, the ACC SEC Challenge, and it's a really interesting spot for Duke because if you just look at the record, it doesn't look all that impressive. How they're 3-5 going into this game. However, they've already played South Carolina, they've already played UCLA, 2 teams in the top 5. They've already played Baylor as well, lost all 3 of those games, but they're undefeated at home. And you mentioned they're going in there at Cameron Indoor Stadium. I expect the crowd to be crazy with the top 5 team in the nation in LSU coming in tonight. And LSU right now is 2-0 on the road. What will they need to do to be able to continue that streak, stay undefeated, and maybe once again eclipse 100 points?
I think it comes down to rebounding and being smart with the basketball. If you can out-rebound a team and you shut down their second chance opportunities, it gives you the upper hand. I think we've seen that from them. I've told y'all before, I think defensively they need to learn how to play together a little bit better. But again, Kim Mulkey's defenses, especially, you're always playing man-to-man, so you're challenged. So it's trying to figure out, hey, if I'm coming off that ball screen, do we need to switch, or how do you go back if you are switching and stuff like that. Just the little nuances that I think because they've had 8 games under their belt, they're kind of learning to play together. So to me, you got to rebound. We know defense travels better offensively, but offensively they've been on a roll. So if they're shooting lights out, I think it's LSU's game to lose and to hand Duke their first loss at home, and I wouldn't be mad about it.
Gee, you left out one of the teams that Duke played.
Who's that?
Forgetting about my Mountaineers.
Oh, Virginia Tech. Or West Virginia.
Whoa! That is a sin. That is a sin in Appalachia.
I was still thinking Virginia Tech from a hiring a football coach because we were talking about LSU earlier. But no, they did play West Virginia. That's true.
And West Virginia beat them with 5 people in the second half.
That's right.
Because all the bench got kicked out.
All the suspensions and ejections. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Go Mounties.
I love it. Chessa, you've been awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insight. And I personally am happy for you because you will never be bored at a press conference ever again with Lane Kiffin in the house.
Right. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm like, yes, we go from BK, who was a little dry, to like, I mean, you better keep up with Juice Kiffin. You better keep up with Lane. You better keep up with all of that because I feel like he's going to kind of put those nuggets in for everybody. And I'm like, ooh.
So is Juice still in Oxford? I know there's a big.
Yeah, apparently he's on his way to Baton Rouge. That was tweeted out yesterday because all of the fallout of them saying that wasn't even Lane Kiffin's dog. He was a rescue dog, and it's an Ole Miss. Ole Miss is, the primal owners, and so I guess he's headed to Baton Rouge.
Just
and I told my
twist
fiance, I was like, he's about to be in all the Canes commercials. Put money on it because that's what they do.
I just can't wait for the first practice and he makes Wet Weeks run. You gotta run sprints on the field, man.
That'd be the first thing. Just take a hike. Take a hike, son. Take a hike, son. We all know why. So you're the best. I appreciate it so much here.
Y'all have a good one. Thanks for having me.
You too. Jessica Boucher joining us from Baton Rouge. I was so excited to hear her insights about everything. But between Lane Kiffin, Kim Mulkey, and Jay Johnson, I mean, that's a fall, winter, and spring. You're good to go.
I mean, that's a big 3 right there.
That is huge.
I know the big 3 era is now over. That was really the 2010s was the era of the big 3. But let me tell you, that LSU, they're going to be national championship contenders throughout the entire calendar year, throughout the entire school year. I mean, it's just going to be. If you're an Ole Miss fan, you got to be sick to your stomach. Yeah, I mean, if you're in the SEC also, you got to be sick to your stomach.
Yep.
Because it's just never going to end now.
Exactly. Hour number 1 continues. We talk more hoops. Coach Cal and company, a huge win against a top 10 team. We'll dissect it next. We're back here on Southeast Sports Plus. Big show today for a lot of different reasons. Number one, obviously getting ready for the SEC championship game, Alabama and Georgia, talking Vandy and maybe some of the other SEC teams that could find themselves inside the top 12 for the college football playoff. But also we're in the middle of a really, really interesting time in college basketball, because while the ACC and the SEC are no comparison on the gridiron, it's a really nice battle going on between these two conferences in basketball. One game in particular on day 2 of the men's side, Arkansas and Louisville. This game we talked about yesterday, and it was an interesting game for the SEC, another check mark in the box.
Before we jump into it, let's revisit what I said yesterday, and then everyone can just go ahead and clown me for it. You know, I got to say, as much as I want to pull for Arkansas, they actually played pretty well against Duke.
Yeah.
It was just Cameron Boozer just took over that game for the Blue Devils. I got to go with the Cards tonight, and this is the game that gets them locked up in a top 2 seed in March. I think Louisville wins. I'll put it on. I'll put it at 7. Louisville wins by 7.
Ooh, okay.
Well, I was wrong. And that was bad, and that's why I'm sitting in this chair and not on the sidelines.
I do have one beef.
He's got one beef.
You didn't play the next 30 seconds of it, because if you did, you would have saw that I said to listen to Courtney Mims. Now, I'm not even going to take credit for it. I did pick Arkansas to win, but I did mainly because our friend Courtney Mims told us that Bud Walton Arena was going to be packed. She was heading there as she came on our show yesterday, and I said on the program, I was like, my heart wants to go against Arkansas for a lot of different reasons. But I couldn't go against Arkansas because Courtney Mims talked me off of it. And so I said, hey, I'm going with the Razorbacks, and I took a money line.
So here, I'll hold this up for everyone. This is my, actually, I gotta, that's more like it. This is my unofficial L that I have officially taken because I had a terrible take. Arkansas, they handed Louisville their first loss of the season. A lot of people thought Louisville wasn't going to lose until they played Duke next month, I believe, to open up ACC play. But I mean, it was one of those games where I talked about it yesterday. Can Arkansas play defense? And honestly, Louisville came into the game as you could make the argument that they were one of the top 3 teams in the country. I still think Purdue and Michigan are firmly above everyone else now after their performances. But I mean, Arkansas came, they came out, they were ready to play, and honestly, Bud Walton Arena, she was right. I should have listened to her.
Yeah, and it was absolutely rocking. You could tell by the crowd there. And she said that some of the games before maybe a little sleepy, but just like we talked about with Chessa Boucher in our last segment, where Duke's the women are going to host LSU, and when a top 5 team just walks into your building, there's a certain buzz on campus. Everybody's back now from Thanksgiving holidays, maybe trying to release some stresses before finals come up a little bit later on this month. I just had a feeling that these kind of games on campus, you would just end up getting a big crowd, especially when a good team comes to town. And so a top 5 team came to town in Fayetteville, a top 5 team going to Duke. I just expect those crowds to just inherently be nice and exciting. Of course, the crowd, they don't put buckets, they don't put balls in the bucket, and so the team's got to do it. But one of the things you mentioned, though, was defense, and I don't know if it was either just cold shooting or good defense at the 3-point line, but Louisville went 8 of 37 from downtown, and that was kind of the story of the game. Not only Louisville just chucking up a bunch of threes, not making them. Yeah,
and I just think that's just what the game is nowadays. I mean, you live and die by the 3. We talked about a couple of days ago with Parker Ream about Bucky McMillan, and that's his whole philosophy. I mean, you live and you die by the 3s, pretty much. I see Alabama kind of the same way, but Alabama got a nice win last night, holding off a good Clemson team. But I mean, this is a big win for Coach Cal, because last year, obviously, first year at Arkansas, and coming over from Kentucky, and obviously that he's known at Kentucky.
Yeah.
And for the Razorbacks to be able to make a somewhat decent run in March, he was looking to take the next step this year. And they got off to a slow start against the Power 4 opponents. They played a lot of non-Power 4 opponents, a cupcake schedule, so to speak. But, I mean, the first game against Michigan State, they just got out-rebounded by, I believe it was 12, yeah. And then they lost to Duke on Thanksgiving, but it was a close game, and I mean, really, it was just one guy that beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they said last night, we're just not going to let one guy beat us, and actually we're going to beat them. And then Trayvon Brazil, I mean, Courtney has said it. I believe she said it yesterday, too. Like, the amount that this guy's grown already early on in the season. And I know Carter Knox didn't really have a good night last night either, but, I mean, Brazil, he's going to be a guy that you're going to have to pay attention to as the season goes on, because, I mean, when it's all said and done at the end of the season, he could be a first-team All-SEC.
Absolutely. And honestly, just watching the way the game flowed, and you mentioned the three-point shot has changed a lot of basketball. It's changed high school basketball. It's obviously changed the NBA. It's changed college basketball as well. But what I find interesting are the way that teams utilize it, because we see some teams like Alabama, they like to chuck it up, and they like to throw up a bunch of three-pointers. We see other teams that are really more conservative. Yesterday, you saw those two kind of opposing styles go at it, with Louisville shooting 37. That is more than double the amount that Arkansas shot in the game. They shot only 18, less than 20 of those from beyond the arc, and we got a chance to hear from Coach Calipari about that.
The way we were guarding, we didn't need to. We got up 18-20 playing basketball. But if they had collapsed, we were going to shoot. You know, I mean, we just don't. You know, my druthers is about 25, 23, 25, 27. You go 35 with one of my teams over the years, we never win that game. We just don't ever win it. So maybe it's the way I coach, and you know, I don't win that many games, but we don't win those ones. I know that. And so we're playing a certain way. Yeah, I want them to shoot. How about this? I want the guys that can make threes to shoot threes.
Wow.
Really interesting. And I think it's kind of really self-reflective. Hey, when we get over this amount of attempts, our production goes down, and it just feels like the law of diminishing returns. Like you just more of something doesn't always mean better.
Right. And honestly, why would you try to chuck up a bunch of low percentage shots rather than get more quality looks? Because, I mean, yeah, you can try to make as many threes as you want, but if they don't go in, then, I mean, you're kind of stuck with one type of offense. Whereas if you get these high percentage shots, you can, I mean, it is basic math. The more times you take high percentage shots, the more likely they are to go in, and the more likely you are to put up points on the board and go on these runs. And as we always know, college basketball and basketball in general, it's a game of runs, and that is especially apparent in March.
That's exactly right. And I think that if you just take the box score, he could just tell his team, hey, look, when you shoot 30 plus, bad things happen. All he has to do is point to what Louisville did, and going on the road, not shooting great, and then losing that basketball game. We'll see if they will continue that, or the hangover effect continues with this basketball team. Fresno State comes up next on Saturday before a big game against a top 20 opponent in Texas Tech coming up on December 13th. We wrap up hour number 1 of Southeast Sports Plus next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we took a look at one of the big games in the ACC SEC Challenge. We'll take a look at some of the other ones. And I know I said on the front end that we'll tally these up in a bit, but I said on the front end that it was an overreaction to the early part of the SEC season and a prediction about what was going to happen in the SEC ACC Challenge. I said the SEC was going to come out on top. They needed some big games. They got a couple. One we just talked about with Arkansas and with Alabama.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it was 6-3 in ACC's favor after day one, and the SEC needed a big comeback, and that's exactly what they got. Obviously here, Arkansas and Alabama both getting wins, so that puts them up 2-0 right there, and then keeping it moving. That's quickly 4-0 right there. LSU got a nice win over Boston College in overtime, and then Vanderbilt keeps on rolling. Some people thought SMU was going to head to Nashville and pull off the upset,
right?
And give Vanderbilt its first loss of the season. But no, Vanderbilt just wins by just a good margin, almost 20 points. Goodness.
Yep, big ones there. So they're still undefeated going into that night slate. Then in the night slate, got a couple others. As Auburn wins by 10 against NC State, we wouldn't be able to tell it by the way Stephen Pearl talked about it after the game. I don't know if you heard his press conference, but it sounded like sounded like a loss there. One of the few L's the SEC took with Texas Longhorns falling to Virginia.
It was the only one they took yesterday. Yep. I mean, wow. And then Mississippi State getting the nice win over Georgia Tech, 85-73. I gotta say, I think the most impressive one, I almost want to give it to Arkansas.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I kind of want to give it to Alabama because, I mean, yes, I know they almost gave up a very large lead. But, I mean, we've seen – I personally have seen Clemson this year come back, storm back. They are a second-half team. They always have been under Brad Brownell.
Yeah.
And teams just fold in the last 10 minutes, and then the lead just goes away. I think it was a good gut check for Nate Oates and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And, I mean, goodness, I feel like we always talk about LeBaron Philon. I jokingly said to my friend that's the head manager over there at Clemson, I was like, you got to watch out for LeBaron Philon. He's going to drop 30 points. He drops 29.
29, yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
like, goodness, this guy, if he's not a lottery pick next draft, I would honestly be shocked. He's going to have a nice career.
Yeah, he certainly will. And late Nate Oates, after the game, talked a lot about his defense as well. He's really stepping up on the defensive side, which is really helping this ball team out because as much as they shoot the three and they love to run and gun, Coach Nate Oates at his core wants a hard hat defense. And he wants a defense that'll
You got the game pulled up?
What's that?
You got the box score pulled up, real?
I don't have the box score pulled up. I
was gonna do the.
Actually, I can have it pulled up.
Here, we'll do it at the top of the second hour.
Top of the second hour, yes, we will. So the SEC bragging rights over the ACC in that challenge on the men's side. Women's side, still some games to play tonight. Southeast Sports Plus continues with hour number 2 next.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Well, Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz said there's no place like home, and for the Texas A&M offensive coordinator, that could be exactly where he is going. Colin Klein, the OC with the Aggies, looking to win a national championship right now, could be the next head man at his former school where he played his football at Kansas State, with the news that Chris Kleiman is retiring. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you. Here on a Thursday, we saw the coaching carousel move about 1,000 miles an hour over the weekend. A lot of SEC jobs were filled by teams, by head coaches out of the Group of Five, especially out of the American Conference. We're now seeing a different kind of exodus with some of the offensive coordinators now taking jobs. The latest one, which I think is almost all but certain, is the Texas A&M offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and there's nothing fully confirmed yet, but it seems like he's going to be the next head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats.
Right.
As you mentioned, it seems like all the offensive coordinators now are trying to find. I mean, we saw yesterday Brian Hartline's going down to USF, so somehow USF lost their coach, and in my opinion, I think they got a better coach because I think Brian Hartline's going to be in the P4 one day, and he's going to be a great head coach down there in Tampa. But this one's a little bit interesting here, and honestly, if I'm Texas A&M, I would be a little bit worried here. I mean, obviously, it's always a good thing when stuff like this happens because you got to be doing something right. I mean, in an 11-1 season, you're definitely doing something right, but you almost have to wonder now. It's like, okay, we just had this great success this year. Are we going to start to taper back because now we're losing our offensive coordinator? But Mike Elko did say that he will be coaching. He will still be calling plays throughout the college football playoffs. So there is that. Right. But it's always the worry about next year. It's like, okay, now we got to find a new guy. And we've seen what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles here this year. Kellen Moore's gone, and now look what happens.
Yeah, and I think that you brought this up the other day with Lane Kiffin. We'll see how Trinidad Chambliss plays. Like, who might be the core developer of these guys? And of course, the offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coaches, they're the ones that are with them in all the meetings. They know their headspace, and especially a guy like Colin Klein, who was a quarterback himself. Yeah. So he was in those shoes not that long ago. He played for the Wildcats back from 2008 to 2012. And then started his coaching journey at Kansas State, bounced around, went to, I think, the Pro Bowl over in Canada for a little bit, and then came back to the college ranks here. I think this is a really interesting scenario for Texas A&M, mainly because there have been enough cautionary tales on how to handle these and how to not handle these. Look at Lane Kiffin. He was trying to prepare Alabama for a national championship run. And Nick Saban was like, get out of here, because he had a foot in both worlds. We've seen it work at places. We saw it work with this was 10 years ago. Saw it work with Nick Saban. Yep. When Nick Saban and Kirby Smart took the Georgia job, we saw it work there, where there was a nice amicable parting of the ways. Because, like you said, it's always good when your coaches are getting poached, because it means you've built a good program. But you just wonder what it looks like for the team moving forward, as Klein would possibly, he hasn't taken the job yet, but possibly have a foot in both worlds.
Well, I mean, let's look at who is going through this right now. Ohio State's going through it with Brian Hartline.
That's right.
I mean, you look at Alabama is going through it right now as
Jamarcus
well.
Shepard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then also, obviously, Texas A&M. So, I mean, all of these programs, and then I'm almost forgetting Ole Miss, obviously. They brought back Charlie Weiss Jr. We talked about that yesterday to kind of, I guess, salvage, I still think that whole situation is so crazy to me.
Yeah.
It's just like, if you're going to have an opinion, why don't you just stand on it and don't let Charlie Weiss come back? I guess you're just trying to backtrack a little bit, but
I think it's saving face. But also, I think you brought up something I never even thought about was, hey, every win for Ole Miss is more dollars in Lane Kiffin's pocket via LSU.
Hey, win these games so then I can give you a nice bonus as well. But it's just interesting because obviously Colin Klein played for Kansas State, and I remember we talked about Kansas State to open up talking about football on the show this year because they played over in Ireland. There was a lot of hype around the K-State program heading into the season. And then the Dublin game happened, and I just remember it was just a monsoon over there, just not good weather at all. Avery Johnson came into the year thinking, hey, this might be a potential Heisman candidate.
Right.
And then his family got into a fight after the game.
That's right.
And that honestly overshadowed the game itself. K-State came in with Big 12 title hopes, and they went 6-6.
6-6, yeah. And it's not a program that is used to this. Is a program that is used to competing for, or at least being on the periphery of the college football playoff, Big 12 championships, and they just weren't that this year. And I think with a guy like Colin Klein coming back, I think if you're K-State, you have to feel really good for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's your QB coming back, quote unquote, home.
Yeah.
But also, secondly, who has more money than Texas A&M? Who has more resources than Texas A&M? The answer is nobody. So he understands what it takes from an infrastructure standpoint to be able to create what you need to create. Now, Kansas State will never have Texas A&M money. Neither will 99% of the schools that are out there. But Colin Klein, he's like, hey, I know the lane that we run in, and I know the lane that it takes to be successful on the field and in recruiting, and he can blend those three worlds together and try to make the K-State the best it possibly can be. That's where I think that his genius might lie. And maybe the reason why, this is pure speculation, maybe the reason why we haven't seen a resolution yet. Maybe he's still negotiating, hey, we still need this amount of dollars in NIL money or this commitment to the football program in order to be on track with the Texas Techs, the BYUs, and everybody else in the Big 12.
Look, I know this year for K-State fans was not what you were expecting at all, but K-State, all they care about is one thing over there in the Little Apple, as they like to call it, in Manhattan, Kansas. As long as you can beat those Jayhawks, you can keep your job for as long as you want. And I don't think there's anything that irks the people of Manhattan more than seeing those fellas over in Lawrence get their act together on the football field.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Kansas was doormat. I mean, Baker Mayfield said it best, go cheer on basketball.
Yeah, right.
And now Kansas, I mean, they've got their act together on the football field. Jalen Daniels, not to be confused with Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, right.
I think his career is done after this year unless he's going to join Pavia's fight and just like all of the other
Aguilar
people.
And all that.
Aguilar and try to get another year. But, I mean, he helped revive the Kansas program, and I don't think the people of Lawrence like what's going on, and they want to, go back to their old quarterback and Colin Klein and be like, all right, right the ship here, because I don't know if I saw Chris Kleeman actually going to retire after this year. I mean, that kind of shocked me as well. I mean,
right.
I think that he's in I believe this was his 9th year
with
the program.
I'll do a guess on his age, but I thought he was like mid-60s, like kind of where you would still, expect him to
7 years. 7 years of the program.
7 years, okay, yeah. So I'll check his age real quick, but I'm right there with you. I was a little bit surprised when I heard the retirement talk for Coach Kleiman. No, he's south of 60. He's 58.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's I don't know. Actually, I think the official wording was stepping down.
Right.
So I wonder if this is like a like Sean Payton type. Hey, I'm going to go into broadcasting for a year and then I'm going to come back.
Try to come back. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. he led them to a Big 12 championship over TCU in 2022. I remember that game was pretty interesting because some people were like, oh, boy, is TCU going to get docked for this, for losing their conference championship? And then that's when the whole, politicking and everything started.
For TCU,
who did he have at quarterback that beat Max Duggan and TCU?
Oh,
this is off the wall trivia right here.
Hang on a second. The K-State quarterback.
I
remember Max Duggan, those TCU, the Horned Frogs, go Toads. Rah. I'm drawing a blank. I forgot. Who was it?
2024 national champion Will Howard.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I remember. This is totally
over there.
This is totally going off topic here real quick. I remember watching Will Howard the 2024 year or the 2023 year.
23, yeah.
And obviously there was a lot of hype around Kansas State after they just won the Big 12, and that was like a big thing for K-State. And I don't think a lot of people truly thought that they could win the Big 12. Mm-hmm. I just remember watching him that 2023 year, and I was like, man. And then he goes and transfers to Ohio State. I don't think that this was a step up from Kyle McCord. And to be fair, I will say this. From a talent perspective, I still think Kyle McCord is the better quarterback.
I agree.
But
I agree.
Just Will Howard, that run that he went on, and it obviously helps having Jeremiah Smith. And then last year, that two-headed monster between Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, people don't talk about that enough, I think.
No. That team was absolutely loaded. And when we're talking about Julian Sain, I think Julian Sain is a more I think if you're talking about quarterbacks as far as progression goes, I think you had Kyle McCord, and then I think you had, obviously you had Will Howard. I think McCord was a little more talented than Will Howard. And then I think Julian Sain is a little more talented than Will Howard as well. But what the one thing Will was able to do, he was able to just steady the boat and run Ryan Day's offense, Brian Hartline's offense, and at the same time and understand exactly what he needed to do there as a quarterback. And so I'm really interested to see, what K-State is able to do here with their head coach. But no, that's a great point. I just totally forgot he was over there.
It's so unfair for Kyle McCord because he got ran out of town because he couldn't beat Michigan, and it was just he never got a fair shot. But the Syracuse fandom in me is like, oh, thank you for running him out of town because he just goes on to have one of the best seasons ever for a Syracuse quarterback. I think he's still the ACC single season yards leader.
He would absolutely awesome.
Maybe Steve Angeli next year can fix that.
And he was on pace to start the season. He was on pace. He was leading the country in yards when he went out.
Syracuse loses, I believe, 8 straight games at the end of the year because they don't have a quarterback.
Mike Elko, the Texas A&M head coach, of course, he is very close with Colin Klein, who is right now his OC and possibly the new K-State HC.
Yeah, I think it's probably not solidified in any way, shape, or form yet. Certainly the reports tend to proceed the official notifications, but I think when you hire really good people, opportunities like that will come. You appreciate that people want to stay part of your program until the next big opportunity for them comes. If we're doing this right, it will be a piece of it, no different than losing players to the NFL. You'll lose coaches, you'll lose position coaches to become coordinators, you'll lose coordinators to become head coaches. I think what you're trying to avoid at all cost is losing really valued assistants to go be assistants at other programs, right? And that's not this case. And so if it does turn out to work out like the reports suggest, obviously it's a tremendous opportunity for someone on our staff to take the next step in their career. And I try to do everything I can to support and help those endeavors.
I think it was very sober, very frank, very
it's a very Mike Elko answer.
Yes, very.
Just very calm, very respectful.
Right.
I mean, I haven't really seen too many times where he's been he actually lashes out at.
Right.
I mean, outside of the door. The door instant.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny that I went and watched the press conference on Texas A&M's YouTube page, and they clipped it out.
Oh, I'm sure they did. They weren't going to leave that in there.
That's almost worse, though.
Yeah.
It's like,
because you don't want to see it all over Twitter, and then
I don't know. I think that's worse. I mean, honestly, you could have just left it in there, and it would have been fine. But,
Right.
I mean, it got out somehow anyways.
Exactly. I was going to obviously get out with all the elements that are out there. But in my opinion, it was a very, very nice, awesome answer. And it was coach speak, but in a way that was truthful. Also, too, if he does lose his offensive coordinator on to be a new head coach. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head out to St. Louis and talk some Missouri Tigers with our good friend Kevin Ryan. Stay with us. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. Most of the teams around the SEC, 14 of them actually, their season is now done. Georgia and Alabama play for the SEC championship, but some teams went off on a really strong note to end off the regular season. We're joined by our friend Kevin Ryans, who covers the Missouri Tigers. And Kevin, we were talking during the break about kind of starting to shift your light towards basketball, so to speak. But we'll touch on football before we go to hoops for a second. The Missouri Tigers, an up and down season. It really started with the first series of the first game when Sam Horn goes down, kind of ending a two-quarterback battle. Then you saw the emergence of this dynamic running back that comes out of the Sun Belt Conference and Ahmad Hardy. leads the nation in rushing for a few weeks, and then another running back also pops up as well. As you put a bow on what you saw from Missouri this past football season, what are some of the things that come to mind and the season finale?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if this roster was as strong as maybe we try to give it credit for. But the fact that they were able to get 8 wins again, they were able to finish off strong, and they had the seasons that they got out of Ahmad Hardy and out of Jamal Roberts, very strong for Mizzou and Eli Drinkwitz. And no, it's not the college football playoff, and no, it's not what they set out to do back in August. But it's another solid season. Mizzou continues to do on the field, well, off the field, recruiting wise, it did really, really well yesterday,
right,
in the National Signing Day. So all in all, still I think a lot of momentum. But I think they're gonna look back at some of those games, the Alabama, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M trio, where they could have won a couple of games and maybe even try to stay in contention for the college football playoff. They didn't win those games. I think they'll be looking back at those games right there as the opportunities that were blown to potentially be on an even bigger national stage in 2025. But I think they'll take what they have here. A couple injuries, as you mentioned, at quarterback. Sam Horn goes down the first game. And then Bo Pribula during Vanderbilt, so they had to go to a freshman quarterback. You think about all the adversity that they had to get 10 wins, or 8 wins, I should say, and continue to play some postseason football here in December into January. I think that's a positive step for Mizzou and their fan base.
Kevin, I think the last time we had you on the show, we were talking about Eli Drinkwitz and his future being uncertain, being linked to all these jobs. Well, yeah. Mizzou ended up inking him to an extension that I believe runs through the 2031 season. How important was it for Mizzou to be able to keep Eli there?
I think it was the right decision on both ends. I think Eli Drinkwitz's stock kind of went down after losing those big games. You started hearing about him a little bit less and less for these other coaching jobs. But on the other end, I think Eli Drinkwitz leveraged that in a sense to be able to get this contract extension over at Missouri. So I think it was a solid decision for Eli to stay. He's building something really good at Mizzou. They're continuing to have big seasons. This season may be a little bit of a step back in terms of the wins and in terms of the being in contention for the college football playoff and whatnot. But still very solid what they've been able to do at Mizzou. And then from Missouri's standpoint, I mean, you look around the country and you have a guy that's a program builder in your building already. The players like playing for him. He continues to get recruits. Mizzou's had bigger and more important games over the last 3 to 4 years as things have kind of settled in for Coach Shrink and company. You have the guy in place. Why not continue to invest in him and continue to try to get a bigger NIL investment in there as well, try to get even more quality players to that program. So good on all ends, and I'm personally happy that it ended up this way and not messy as some of these other coaching jobs have gone out.
No messy is a kind way to put it.
Yeah, very. Very kind way. One of the things about Drinkwitz that has really been something that he doesn't get a lot of national credit for, but slowly I'm saying hey, he's probably one of the better ones in the country. And you alluded to it a moment ago, is being able to spot and develop talent. To be able to get a guy out of the Sun Belt Conference and Ahmad Hardy, to be able to attract and recruit a guy like Luther Burden a season ago. This is a guy to me who knows how to spot talent, but then also develop it. Talk a little bit about that part of his, coaching acumen that can help him moving forward and help Missouri moving forward.
Yeah, it was so important that you get a guy who can recruit, particularly in the SEC. It's just so difficult to be able to build a program in a conference where there's so many heavy hitters, Alabama, and on a good year, LSU, on a good year, Florida. Now you have Texas and Oklahoma who've springboarded this year into big season. So it's been so important to have a guy like Eli be able to continue to recruit, and you've seen the fruits of all of it over the last 3 seasons. The best 3 seasons in quite some time have come 2023, 2024, 2025 Cotton Bowl win. Last year it was the Music City Bowl. To be able to get those wins and be able to get 8 more wins this year. No question that it's all because of what they've been doing behind the scenes and getting guys in the transfer portal, being active on that part, being able to recruit the high school guys. We got to remember when they got Luther Burden, it was a massive deal. I mean, not only here in St. Louis, but across the country. This was a legit 5-star guy that was choosing to stay home and try to bring Mizzou up instead of going to an established power. So to have a guy that you can trust in Eli Drinkwitz and be able to have that front covered is pretty big. And again, more positive signs. I think they got 19 guys yesterday in signing day, and then they were able to get a quarterback from Nebraska. So a lot of things are moving up forward for them. And the hope is that they can start winning those big games. I think that's the next step for Eli Drinkwitz and company. You can talk about the Cotton Bowl he won a couple of years ago. It was against an Ohio State team that had lost all of its players to the transfer portal, had essentially given up in a sense. But you want to, when those games matter, in those big matchups, can they go out and win? I think that's the next step for Eli Drinkwitz and crew.
While we're talking about bowl games and the Cotton Bowl, what do you think is a realistic projection for this Mizzou team sitting at 8-4?
Yeah, it's tough to say because their wins aren't spectacular.
Right.
And that's where I whatever, I think they'll take whatever they can get and be able to use that time to be able to further recruit and get those practices in. But in terms of a bowl game, man, if they go out and get one of those .com stuff, I think they'll take it anyway, whatever they can get. I think they're better than that, for sure. They're an SEC team. They won 8 games. But I'm just so not impressed with their wins this year. I wish they would have better wins. But I think they'll take whatever they can get at this point, knowing that their goals before were to make the college football playoff and be in contention for all of that. I think just getting to 8 wins with all the adversity that they got and whatever bowl game comes their way would be great.
Well, I'll tell you this. 2 of those .com bowls, so to speak, the Xbox Bowl and the Hawaii Bowl, they're not playing in those because those came out today. So at least there's 2 that you can check off right
exactly.
there.
I think Missouri State, a team that's a first-year FBS.
I'm glad that they're playing in a bowl game.
Well, super good job by the NCAA, not filling it with some 5-17. As much as we like on this show to be able to see Auburn continue to play. Weren't deserving of it, not getting to 6 wins, to be honest. So really good around these parts here, if I may say so selfishly, to see Missouri State continue to play some postseason football.
Absolutely. We got a chance to hear from Coach Drinkwitz on his star running back, Ahmad Hardy.
Oh, I mean, if he needed this game to make a convincing final argument, I don't know what else they need to see. But, I mean, I thought he started a little bit slow, but that rush he made to put us up, I mean, there was 4 guys around him. Everybody thought he was tackled, and he refuses to go down. That last drive, I mean, we continue to find ways for him to just keep his feet moving and churning. So, I think he's proven he's the best, most consistent back in college football. Whether or not he wins the award, that's for committees to decide, and y'all know how I feel about committees. So, we'll see. But it's really not close who's the best back in college football.
He's 22 yards away. Cam Cook out of Jacksonville State has 1,581 yards. Ahmad Hardy finished with 1,560 yards. So basically 22 yards away from the ultimate. And there's no disrespect to Jacksonville State's schedule. Of course, Ahmad Hardy played better defenses along the way. Do you think that he should be at least, if not winning the best running back award, at least, or not going to New York, at least winning the best running back award?
Yeah, he's one of the best in the country, if not the best. I mean, the fact of the matter is that this guy, from out of nowhere, was able to show that he is a Power 5 running back, or Power 4, I should say, that he can carry a game, that he can change a game. And Mizzou quietly had this 2-headed monster in Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy. all season long. To be able to have that 1-2 punch in a game, they were doing everything from setting the pace to closing games out, big explosive plays to change games. You have a guy like him to be able to set the table. And Mizzou's offense has always been predicated on them. Larry Roundtree, Tyler Bidet, in the past, Cody Schrader, the name a few of the running backs that have come through during the Eli Drinkwitz era. Those guys have kind of set the table for the rest of that offense to be able to go. And to find a guy like Ahmad Hardy and have so much success with him only bodes well for Mizzou. So I'm a big believer in him, and I think that he should be up for, at the very least, up for whatever awards there are in store for him.
Absolutely. Let's flip over to basketball really quickly. I love the fact that Notre Dame just chooses to be in the ACC when they want to be, not in football, but in basketball. They're like, oh, yeah, for sure. The ACC-SEC Challenge underway, and Missouri lost their first game to Notre Dame, who's kind of like just a sidecar member of the ACC. A really great start for the Tigers overall. Lost their first game, got a little cold there in the second half. What'd you make of the Missouri-Irish game in the ACC-SEC Challenge?
It was a close game. I think it went down to the final minute. Mizzou continues to show that it has the players and the talent to be able, and the coaching. I think that's the biggest thing with college basketball is the coaching, to be able to compete with some of the power conferences. One thing I am concerned about, sandwiched in between, or I guess on the outside and in between Bethune-Cookman and Alabama State. On the tail end of those, it's Kansas and Illinois coming up. Mizzou doesn't have any really wonderful wins. They've beaten up on a pretty soft schedule. If they don't get any power conference wins here, I guess Minnesota kind of counts. Minnesota, it wasn't really a good opponent there.
Yeah.
But if they don't get a big win against one of those, I think Illinois is ranked like 14th. Kansas is ranked 21st. Rivalry games. The Illinois game is the game that they play every year at St. Louis, bragging rights. Then they're going to have to rely on that tough SEC schedule to really pad the resume. So a couple of big games kind of quietly coming up here for Mizzou. But Dennis Gates has shown year in and year out that these guys believe in him, that he can coach in big games, that he can go on the road and win in big games. The only off year was that second year where they lost all the games in conference play. Well, they had a really difficult time recruiting in the transfer portal. They had some injuries that year. Last year proved that they can go out there and win in a really tough SEC. But I wouldn't want to rely on that. No. So a couple of big games coming up here. Kansas this Sunday, and then right before Christmas, bragging rights against Illinois. If they can go out and maybe take one or two, then that makes that resume look a little bit better. 9-2 or so, or maybe even a 9-1 going into conference play. Very solid for Mizzou. So I think that's where they're hoping and banking on, and we'll see how that goes.
Jacob Cruz was a guy that has stayed with Mizzou, and I saw the other night he came off the bench and he actually lit it up from beyond the arc. Do you think he could work his way into the starting lineup, seeing how the starters really didn't shoot that well from three-point range?
Dennis Gates is not going to continue to run the same guys out there if they're not producing for him. Yeah. He's more than willing to go and use the players that play the best for him. If Jacob Cruz gets hot, sure. I think he wants to rely on his big starting lineup. Remember, I think Mizzou has somewhat of like 7 or 8 guys that are like 6'6" and taller or something like that. So they have a big front court and a big back court as well. And I think they try to use that to their advantage. So I think they're going to want to do that moving forward with the season. But expect guys like Cruz to be able to continue to get time no matter how it shakes out. because Dennis Gates is going to want to be able to have at the very least 10 players to be able to go out there game in and game out and be productive to kind of spare everyone really heavy minutes log. He's shown that over the last few years that he's not afraid to be able to pull out guys and be able to use whatever is working for him, and he's also willing to be able to use a deep bench as well. So no matter what, I think you can expect Cruz to be able to play and get huge minutes for Missouri throughout the season.
Real quick before we let you go here, I feel like we got to talk about the team on the ice. A few weeks ago when we talked, things weren't looking too good, but they're actually only 4 points out of that second wild card spot. What have you made from their performance here recently? And really, I think the thing that stood out to me was going back and forth between Jordan Bennington and Joel Hofer in that.
Yeah, Jim Montgomery isn't gonna, just rely on his starter. Bennington is the man. He's the hero for Team Canada, hero for the Blues in 2019. Everyone thinks I still think he's all worlds. In some of these games that they've lost, he's been fantastic, and they've kind of spoiled big performances out of him. But they want to be able to get him rest, and they want to be able to have a solid rotation there between the two. Joel Hofer has shown at times that he can hang with the best of them as well over in between the pipes. So I think Joel Hofer is going to continue to get time. He's going to want to be able to use the both of them. And as for the Blues as a team, they're not playing as well as they want to play still. But you look at the standings and they're not too far out, right? No. So all it takes is a good run to be able to get their confidence going. But the thing I'm concerned about is their consistency. They just haven't been able to put together big runs in terms of winning all season long. They'll play well one game, and the next game they'll lay an egg, and then the game after that they'll play well, but then lose in overtime. They've just had so many of those kind of contests, and you're inconsistent in the National Hockey League. That never bodes well for any team.
Yeah, well, I don't mean to rub it in your face by any means, but my Bolts have been on quite the streak there. I know they had the 7-game win streak snapped, first in the Atlantic right now, but with Commissioner Gary Bettman allowing NHL players to play in the Winter Olympics finally, which I think is the right decision for the first time since 2014.
Yes, it
has
is.
It been made? I don't follow the Blues enough to know, but has it been made public that if Jordan Bennington will play for Team Canada this February?
And not that from what I've heard from, but of course he's trying to use that resume from last year's win at the championships, and then of course his run with the Blues at the end of last season to be able to make a case for him to be their goalie again. And why wouldn't you want to have a Stanley Cup champion goalie who is all world for you there? So
I tell you what, if you put him in do or die situations, he's probably one of the best goalies ever.
He is nails at every single, even that game again when the Blues lost in Game 7 at Winnipeg, that was a fluky last-second bounce to send it to overtime, and then it kind of deflated the team. They were within seconds of moving on to the second round, and Jordan Bennington was a huge part of that.
Obviously, great stuff there. You got a chance to hear from Coach Montgomery there on his star.
Well, it's just the professionalism that you expect from someone like Bennington, and as well as let my own ego go and just go into him. The same thing. It's important that you deal with it right away. So there's anytime you have to deal. I don't love dealing with conflict, but in life you have to deal with conflict, and you deal with it right away, and nothing festers then. We did, but his previous win was a shutout too, and we went back with him, and we didn't win the following game, so that was the logic behind it. Benner had played 4 great games in a row for us.
Kevin, it's been a great time with you here on Southeast Sports Plus. Thank you for all of your time and your insights on everything, on the Tigers and the Blues.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's Kevin Ryans joining us from St. Louis, the Show Me State, and the fans are saying, hey, show me some wins, man. Show me some wins here. A consistent streak of wins at least.
Yes, and honestly, they won their first cup in 2019. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
They were dead last halfway through the season. I think I said it to him about a month ago. It's like, the Blues were dead last at one point. Do you think maybe we could have a situation where they right the ship? But, I mean, as you saw, 3-3-4 in their last 10 games. That's just not going to win you anything in the National Hockey League. But those 4 losses in overtime, they'll still keep you in the race.
Right, and as you pointed out, 4 points away from being right there amongst the contenders. So staying with it in the standings, the St. Louis Blues are. Thank you, Kevin Ryans. That coming up next year on Southeast Sports Plus, Thursday Night Football. Cowboys, Lions. We dissect it next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, a really important week in the NFL for teams that are either right on the cusp of the NFL playoffs or maybe trying to work themselves back in after a really slow start here. Really interesting matchup here between a team that was perennially considered one of the best teams in football all of last year and a team in the Dallas Cowboys that has had to do some clawing back in this thing. Cowboys and Lions, this is a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, and 29 former SEC standouts will be in action here tonight. And honestly, this is probably the first this is the biggest Thursday night game on that's not on Thanksgiving here this year, because both of these teams have so much to play for here. Obviously, the Cowboys on a 3-game win streak. They had beaten the 2 teams that played in Super Bowl 59 in a span of 4 days, and then obviously the Raiders before that. That doesn't really count this year, but this is a Lions team that, it seems like they get a nice win over a good team, and then they lose to another good team right after. So they keep going back and forth, win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. We just talked with our friend Kevin Ryans out in St. Louis, and that's kind of what the Blues are going through right now. But, I mean, if the pattern repeats itself, Detroit's going to win tonight, but I mean, I just don't know because the offense has been so shaky, and we still don't know the status of Amon-Ra St. Brown after he suffered that ankle injury early in the Packers game. And it really looked like Jordan Love. I mean, let me tell you, Jordan Love on Thanksgiving.
A dynamite.
He is. And I go back to the game 2 years ago as well, and he was dynamite then as well. But, I mean, Jared Goff a few weeks ago was sort of in the talks for MVP, and then ever since late, it's just been falling off.
Right, and I think a lot of that, you wonder if some of that walks hand in hand with some of the lack of production offensively. It's not like they don't have the guys. I mean, they have
guys.
I mean, they have probably, as far as just pure talent goes, you know, player 1 to player 53, they're probably one of the most talented teams across the NFL. However, like you said, inconsistent. And you wonder just how much losing those coordinators. We talked about this with Texas A&M. Texas A&M is in a position, and Coach Elko talked about that in the soundbite that we play, that, you know, when you're doing well, your coaches get poached to go to other places, and both of their coordinators, Aaron Glenn is now with the New York Jets, and then you also have the offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who's the head coach now of the Chicago Bears. It looks like the offense has really been up and down ever since then.
Yeah, and honestly, it makes you wonder if, you know, those two coordinators kind of made Dan Campbell look a little bit better than he actually was. I know Detroit had that tough season in his first year, and he had the emotional press conference, or he's like, hey, you know, he didn't give the Aaron Boone, it's right in front of us, but he basically said, I mean, these guys are still fighting, and he was in tears after one of the games. But I mean, you look at what Ben Johnson's doing right now. He says Chicago's winning in spite of the passing game, which I think is a little bit insane. But I mean, he's been able to unlock Caleb Williams and then Roma Dunze, obviously a nice piece there to have alongside Luther Burden, who we just talked about. But I mean, both of those coordinators are starting to figure it out. Chicago had a rough start, and then New York, it was like, all right, are they going to win a game here this year? And now they're kind of on a run here ever since, you know, selling at the deadline. So it's just it's been very interesting. But one of those teams that New York sold to was the Dallas Cowboys and Quinnen Williams, and they've got an MVP candidate on their team that honestly I think just because he's got the star on his head, he gets a little bit more hate than he honestly deserves.
Yeah, Dak Prescott, the former Mississippi State quarterback, is having a year thanks in large part to his two star wide receivers.
And they're eating, just like they are there.
They were eating on Thanksgiving. They've been eating all season long. George Pickens, the former Georgia star, and CeeDee Lamb, the former Oklahoma star, both standout players for this football team. We got a chance to hear from QB1 after a really, really nice performance on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's fun. It's what you play the game for. Real competitors. As you said, they take the spirit of their head coach. You can tell that they play with it. I haven't played them, twice, right? 2 years ago. We got the better end. They got the best end of us last year. Not a pretty game, so I'm definitely looking forward of just getting back out there, going to Detroit, just having the group that we have, and having to communicate in such a tough environment, but understanding we got to play physical, and we're going to be a four-quarter fight.
As we look at some of the players on the Dallas Cowboys that were once in the SEC, you mentioned Dak Prescott off the top. You think he is an MVP candidate?
Yes, he is definitely an MVP candidate, especially if your guy over there in Foxborough starts to taper off a little bit in Drake May. But looking at some of the other SEC standouts, Jaden Blue from Texas had a really nice year last year. I thought it was an underrated pickup for the Cowboys until they got Malik Davis, who is having a really nice year. And then Javonte Williams, obviously you cannot forget about the unreal year he's having. But Malik Davis out of Florida, and then Jonathan Mingo, who's still trying to find action here for the Cowboys this year after being traded from Carolina last year. Then, as you mentioned before, George Pickens coming from Georgia, Tyler Booker on the offensive line from Alabama, Jadeveon Clowney, that midseason free agent pickup. I believe he was in retirement, and then he came out of retirement to join the Cowboys. Dante Fowler having a great year out of Florida. And then Sam Williams, one of the more underrated pieces on that defense. Quinnen Williams from Alabama just was acquired a few weeks ago in that trade with New York. Perrion Winfrey from Oklahoma. And Shamar James from Florida. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs is on injured reserve right now with a concussion.
Yep. So those are the standouts there on the Dallas Cowboys side. And meanwhile, on the other side, we'll take a look at the Detroit Lions. And this is a team that Coach Campbell, he really wants to solidify his team with toughness and grit. Obviously, he went to the SEC to go get it. specifically former Alabama running back in Jahmyr Gibbs. And Gibbs, to me, is a really, really good player. I did not realize how good he'd be coming out of. I didn't realize how good he'd be going to Alabama, coming from Georgia Tech, and then parlaying that to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been an absolute steal for the Detroit Lions. I know last year with the new Sonic movie, him and David Montgomery were Sonic and Knuckles. But I mean, really, it's just been Sonic this year. David Montgomery hasn't really. I don't think he's had the production that he had last year, because Montgomery was really the back that would score inside the red zone, and now it's Jahmyr Gibbs just basically taking over 1,000 yards rushing again, 10 total touchdowns, or 10 rushing touchdowns on the season, But if you look at some of these stats, I think the one that stands out the most to me, he has not had a fumble in 2 years.
That is insane.
2 years. He didn't have a fumble all of last year.
Wow.
And he has 2 fumbles in his entire NFL career. I mean, it's just unreal. Now that I say that, he's probably going to fumble it tonight. But if that happens, we'll revisit this tomorrow. But I mean, it's just been unreal. And I mean, I think last year I got him, I want to say, in like the 5th round of fantasy. I was like, wow, why are we sleeping on him?
What a steal.
And let me tell you, he was gone by the end of the 1st round this year.
Oh, no doubt. Once you have success one year, you're gone pretty quickly the next year. I got a chance to hear from Dan Campbell, looking to bounce back after the loss last week.
Well, I just think the guys are on point. Look, they're always that way. There is always a level of urgency. But, with this unit here, this crew, they don't like losing. None of us like losing. And it puts a bad taste in your mouth, and so we just came off a loss, division opponent, and we don't want that again. So these last 2 days have been really good. The guys have been locked in. I thought they were flying around yesterday. But I just bring it back. Yes, there's urgency, but there's not panic. You start taking this to a level of, then that's when guys start making mistakes. Well, I'm going to start trying to do your job, and then I'm out of position to do my job because I'm trying to do your job, and that's when everything breaks down. So just do your job, handle your business, do it the best you can do it, and be on point. And eliminate the things that require no talent, the discipline, man, the fundamentals, the technique. You just handle that.
Discipline, fundamentals, technique, that's all the things that Nick Saban used to tell Jahmyr Gibbs back in the day, and he has taken all of that straight to the NFL. He is one of several guys with SEC ties in this game.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, as we just talked about, Dominic Lovett from Georgia, Isaac Tesla, who had a really nice touchdown for the Lions last week on Thanksgiving, and then Jamison Williams, also from Alabama. I mean, that dude is electric as well.
Yeah.
Tristan Colon from Missouri, Tate Ratledge from Georgia, and Dan Skipper, who, you always got to be careful if he checks in as eligible, because he could catch a pass for Dan Campbell. Keeping it moving here, Tyrus Wheat from Mississippi State, Mekhi Wingo from LSU, and Alex Anzalone from Florida. And then rounding it out here, Brian Branch from Alabama. He's been a really nice safety for the Detroit Lions. Daniel Thomas from Auburn, and Jake Bates, who is on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good kicker.
Could use a pretty good game from him, and also could use your defense stepping up on 3rd downs for him to be able to make field goals instead of touchdowns, and it's a win-win for you, for your personal fanhood for the Dallas Cowboys, also for your fantasy team.
And we'll see coming up after this. We're going to get into our amazing best bets, and we haven't been keeping a track on units won or lost. But,
right.
Maybe once we start with we'll do baseball next year or something.
Yeah,
we'll find something.
We'll find a metric to keep it rolling. We'll have our best bets to close out the show coming up next. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we talked about the big game coming up tonight. Plenty of former SEC players that will take part in tonight's Cowboys-Lions game. It's another Thursday night. I know last week Thursday games were awesome because of Thanksgiving, obviously. This week is another great Thursday night game. Both teams right on the cusp of the college football playoffs. We've been talking about the CFP for forever, on the cusp of the NFL playoffs. Cowboys obviously need to win to get in, and the Lions looking to get back on track here. Let's go with our best bets.
Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to go with George Pickens anytime touchdown because when I was up in New York last week, I took CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown, and Lamb had been kind of quiet.
Right.
Obviously, he's been overshadowed by his drops problem this year, but I mean, it's really just been with Philadelphia. I got George Pickens anytime touchdown here. He has been one of the greatest additions for the Cowboys in recent memory. It just blows my mind even more by the day why Pittsburgh gave up so little for him. I thought he was definitely worth more than like a second-round pick. But speaking of the game here tonight, I think I got Jahmyr Gibbs 2+ touchdowns because I know Dallas tried to beef up that front, and when they traded Micah Parsons away, they wanted to be able to stop the run, and so they got Kenny Clark. Now they have Quinnen Williams, but I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, just watching him play, if he gets on the outside, he's gone, and it's just not. There's not many running backs in the league that can just hit the corner and just be gone.
Yeah,
I think he scores 2+ touchdowns tonight, especially with Amon-Ra being questionable.
Yeah,
because I mean, really, that just leaves Goff being able to throw it to Tesla and then Jameson Williams. But I got Jahmyr Gibbs 2+ tutties, and you know, I was thinking about going with my boys, but I think Detroit gets the win here. I think this is just, you know, Dallas has built up all this goodwill, and it's just it's like the Alabama conundrum that they had earlier this year. It's like, how are you going to get up for all of these games here moving up? And I mean, Alabama was able to pull it off. I think Detroit's got it tonight.
It's a little reverse psychology there as well. I think coming from your side, I had to write your picks down because I'm seeing them for the first time, and I literally think we're the complete opposite on all of them.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll explain. I like the Cowboys not only plus the 3.5. Throw those points in the trash. I like Cowboys money line tonight. If this was outside in Green Bay, I could see it. But this is on a fast track indoors in Detroit.
Yeah.
I think that George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb go off tonight. Also, with Gibbs, you mentioned it with the D-line. They have been resurgent stopping the run. I know it was a big point of emphasis last year not being able to stop the run. I think this year they found it with Quinnen Williams. I don't see a big game from Jahmyr Gibbs. I say under 79.5 rushing yards. Then you mentioned CeeDee Lamb with the drops, and George Pickens has had a great season so far with this Dallas Cowboys. Kept his nose clean and everything. I think CeeDee Lamb is ready to scratch that narrative about those drops. And you mentioned it was probably about the Philadelphia Eagles game, but I think there was a growing narrative that he might be the weaker link of this dynamic
Is he
duo.
wide receiver one still, or is it George Pickens?
Exactly. I think that he and Dak, a former SEC quarterback and the former Oklahoma star, they make it a point to target him 7, 8, 9 times. I like over 6.5 catches there in that game. So it's kind of funny because you have Pickens anytime touchdown because of the drops. Then you have Gibbs over the 2 touchdowns. And then you also have Detroit money line, which I think you're also doing some funny math on that.
Take it to the bank, Takes. Well, I mean, I mainly took the Pickens touchdown because Lamb got one last week. And I just think like it seems like they go back and forth.
Right.
But
and if the defense shades one way, Dak's not going to force one in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, if the Cowboys win tonight, I think there's going to be some serious conversations like, hey, they could overtake the Eagles because the Eagles don't look that great right now. If the Cowboys win tonight, they're going to be favored in every game the rest of the year.
Right.
And what turned out to be from, I think it was a 9% chance at the trade deadline, Jerry Jones is like, I ain't hear no bell. I'm just going to still go all in. And I thought he was crazy. 3-game win streak.
They win tonight. Yeah.
They're in it.
They win tonight. They're in it. I do think this team is trending in the right direction. I think they get it done. We'll break it down tomorrow on Southeast Sports Plus. See you then.